This is why it's so vitally important that as channels, as readers, as coaches, as intuitives, whatever that spiritual modality is that we are helping others through, we have to do our own work. We've all come here with a divine purpose, traveling on a stream of cosmic dust from the stars into our mother's wombs, born into this precious life. It is no accident that you are here, my love, on earth, in this moment, in this body. You are here longing to find your place, to align with your purpose, to embody your passions and to live into the dreams of your heart. Yet so often we get caught, suspended in the tangle of life, not able to move forward, not able to find solace and comfort in a world that has forgotten the truth of our existence. As we begin to remember, as we peel back the layers, as we come together to uncover our unique gifts and reconnect with our authentic selves, we are able to see another way of being, a new possibility, a different life waiting to be lived. I have experienced on this complicated and wild journey of life that when we connect with the story of our soul, it will show us the magic of this life that we have been missing. It will open a window into the very heart of who we truly are, of who we came here to be, and gives us answers to our ever-asking why. Hello, 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 beautiful souls. Thanks for tuning in, for being here for another episode. It's always so good to be with you. Stephanie is here today with us, and she's here interested in increasing the flow of clients into her tarot business. And at the same time, she realizes that her own shadow work is a priority. So she's here wondering what her focus should be as she's transitioning from ending a period of deep shadow work to now being ready to call in new clients. And I love Stephanie's awareness of how these are related, right? The depth that we are willing to go in our own journey and within our own being is the level that we are available to hold space for others. We cannot take anyone else deeper than we are willing to go ourselves. And so it all starts with you. Your willingness, your curiosity, your availability to dive deep into who you are, to the truth of you, to your wounding, to your conditioning, your programming. And so this call takes us on a lovely journey where we explore the mother wound, which so many of us hold, right? It's a collective wound. We do some energy clearing and talk about some tools. We also look at how the wisdom really lives inside you, and that the deeper you go into your craft, the more capable you become of understanding, of having this access to this deep, deep wisdom that you hold inside you. We also talk about different models for accessing spiritual information because the Akashic is gigantic. And that word just falls short because it's unfathomable is the truth, right? And so we have models that help our human capacity understand something that is unexplainable, at least in the modern times that we live in. And so models and modeling information and practices and procedures really, really help us when we're developing intuition, when we're diving deep into energy work. Having a model that we follow allows us to see more, to be open more, to understand more. So before we dive into this really delicious call, I'd love to remind you of Ignite Your Intuition, which, as most of you listening know, my passion is really about helping you develop your intuition and accessing your wisdom, right? Because I know what I know, but you also know what you know. And when we learn to follow that own unique rhythm, that own inner wisdom, our inner compass, this is when your life changes, and this is when the magic becomes accessible because it's you. And so Ignite Your Intuition is our free gift that helps you dive deep into understanding your intuition in a deeper way and giving you some tools to access it, maybe a little differently than you're used to. Also, we have revamped our quiz, and it is called Discover the Intuitive Language of Your Soul. So, from my experience, right, our soul has a language. We have a specific way that we absorb information. And I built this quiz and then the program that goes along with it, Activate Your Intuitive Soul Language, based on my own experience of how for so many years I was trying to see. I just wanted to see. Seemed like everybody else could see. And the programs I was taking were geared towards seeing. And yet I just saw blank space. There was nothing there for me. And then one day I realized that my strongest gift is actually knowing. And the moment that I connected with that, all of a sudden, everything changed. I actually could understand and receive information from the spirit world. It just came flooding in, and it changed my whole journey and the way that I worked with my intuition and the programs that I took and the way that I moved through the world, because now I connected with a part of me that was unique to me and the way that my intuition was trying to speak to me, the way my guides were sending me messages that I didn't get because I was too busy trying to see. You know, fast forward a decade later, and now I can see and feel and hear and know. The channels were developed and able to be open, but having that, knowing that the way my guidance worked really activated and ignited something in me. So I love sharing this with you and giving you this wisdom so that you can build on that. There's links in the show notes for both of these offerings, and thanks for being here and being on this journey. Enjoy the episode. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to the podcast. How can I help you today?
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me on. I am interested in increasing the flow of clients into my tarot reading business. And at the same time, I'm realizing that my own shadow work is a priority. I feel that I'm nearly finished with this round of shadow work. And my question is, I'm wondering what my focus should be as I'm transitioning from ending my shadow work to calling in new clients.
Okay, thank you. So when I feel into that, I feel into you, right? Related to that, you take me to your heart, and there is a flow of energy that is leaking out your heart. It goes to your left and it goes over to your mother.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, this process you're in, I'm not sure if your shadow work has been related to your familial relationships and your mother, yet there is still a connection with her that is going to interrupt you calling in clients. So what do you know about that?
Yes, thank you. Most of my shadow work has actually been centered around rewriting my history of my mom rejecting me, of a sense of abandonment with her turning her back on me and removing her attention and approval. I've done what I feel like is a ton of forgiveness work over probably the past 20 years. Yet I understand that there's still more of that work to do.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And I just so honor you for going so deep into that, because the mother wound is crushing, right? As to us as women and to men. You know, our mothers hold such a vital part in our lives, in the cultural structures that we have. And when they're not able and capable to give us what we need, it really does puts us on a different life path, let's say.
Yes, and you're spot on with my mom not being able or capable to fully connect and support me as she deals with many mental health challenges and some generational trauma definitely that she experienced growing up. And so I feel strongly that that negatively impacts her ability to connect authentically and lovingly.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's beautiful that you recognize that, right? And are able to articulate it and hold that as part of your story.
Mhm.
Yeah, so what I see, right, is what could be really helpful for you in this stage is I see this as an energetic practice, right? You've done a lot of the mental, emotional, psychological piece, and now you are at the energetic piece. And it can be as simple as reaching over there, like following that thread out of your heart. If you tune in, if you're a sensitive person, you might even be able to feel it. It's a pretty big outflow that's going there. Can you sense that?
Yes, as you're describing it, that makes perfect sense. So following that thread,
And I can actually teach you right now if you would like just follow that thread out to her and then put your hand out. Imagine you're putting your hand like through into no time, no space, right? Because that started when you were really young. It's not this moment. So go through into no time, no space and just use your fingers to disconnect and pull that energy back to you. And just feel yourself bring it all the way back to your heart.
yes, that resonates so deeply because I've been doing a daily practice of cord cutting and calling my own energy back to me. And yet I have felt definitely that there's something deeper with the cord cutting, something that I wasn't quite getting. And so that's a really gentle but really effective sounding practice to disconnect that cord. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. There's also a second piece that you can do that's going to actually help as well because cord cutting can be effective. And yet, what happens is our energetic field has become so accustomed to letting that energy go, right? It's like you're caught in this, it's a trauma bond, is the way I see it, that your energetic body doesn't really know that you don't actually want to do that because you've done it for so many years. And it's probably handed down from her mother and then probably her mother. And so through time and space and your ancestral line, this trauma bond has been strengthening. So just cord cutting sometimes doesn't get to the root of that, right? You have to go through the family line. And what inevitably happens in these situations is not only are you the energy going out, but your mother, in not consciously, but through her delusions and distortions, put something in to your heart, which is essentially what is displacing the energy. So people put things in, and then the space that it gets crammed into, energy and light gets displaced. And then that is why the energy is running out. So the other part of this practice is pulling it out, what she put in there. And you can kind of do the same thing, like if you feel into your heart space and you just use your fingers and you imagine it and see it, however that is for you, right? Your intuition is going to have you connect to that. It often can look like a dark, kind of cloudy substance. And you pull that out, and then you're going to give that to the planet. And then the planet will do with that what needs to be done, right? Like if that goes back to your mom or if that's part of her karma, if it goes back to your great grandma, we get let the earth decide.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. And I feel that what I'm going to be looking for is a black crystal with really jagged edges. Something like a
Beautiful.
dagger is what I'll be looking for. Thank you. So removing that piece, that makes sense. And what would you suggest that I refill the space with? How do you approach that?
So what you're refilling it with is what you're pulling back. So where that flow goes out, right? The thing that got put in there is causing that flow of energy to go out. So when you pull the piece out, like the dagger out, and then you go and you're pulling the energy back, that combination is filling that space, because you're filling that space with you.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. I'm making notes because I definitely want to follow through on your insights.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be really helpful. What that's doing, right? It's keeping you caught. And then when you go to move forward with clients, your clients are sensing that loss of energy, and they don't maybe understand what it is, but they just know that that's there. And especially if a person has their own issues with their mother, they're going to really pick up on that. So by cleaning that up, you're freeing yourself from a tangle, and then your energetic field is resonating at a level that says, hey, I understand mother wounds and I can support you because I have actively worked and cleared mine. And that's what your clients feel in you, even if they don't know that,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're going to feel that. That's going to resonate in their field.
Yeah, I recently had an experience with someone giving their first Akashic Records reading to me, and they have a wound that they saw what was coming from my records through the lens of their experience, and that definitely distorted the message. I feel like the reader was on the right track in my records, but at the same time, they were incorrect about how an upcoming meeting would go. It was a legal meeting. And I feel that was due to the reader having some kind of experience that's unresolved related to a legal setting. And so she wasn't able to give quite the accurate details on what was upcoming for me.
Yeah. And that's really powerful that you recognize that, right? Like you can see that in her. This is why it's so vitally important that as channels, as readers, as coaches, as intuitives, as tarot readers, Akashic record readers, whatever that spiritual modality is that we are helping others through, we have to do our own work. We have to clear what it is that, so those lenses that we look through are really true and accurate for the person that we're reading through for.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that right there, your ability to see that in her, that's a beautiful discernment that's going to serve you well, because you have that ability. So you can actually just transpose that onto yourself and use that lens to view yourself as you are reading for others.
Yes, when I do read tarot for others, most of my tarot reading work has been at in-person events because the people flock to me in person. And so I love reading at festivals and events. It's online where I feel the need to call in more clients. But in person, people are so often saying, yeah, that's exactly right, with the slightest bit of disbelief kind of behind their statement. Like, how could you possibly know that, Stephanie?
Yeah, it's such, to me, that part is just so awe inspiring, right? When we are the channel for that thing that they exactly needed to hear. There's no earthly logical explanation for how that happens. And we're just fully like immersed in the unseen magic world and being of service.
Yes, yes. And I'm so grateful for that experience every time.
Yeah. Yeah. The online space, right? There's a lot of distortion that's
Mhm.
happening, and it can be tricky to navigate. What I have found is that the same mechanics are at play as when you're at a festival where people are feeling you. It is easier because there's more there, right? Like they can't miss you in a way because you're just right there. Whereas when we move into that online space, there is so much distraction and so much happening that our senses kind of shut down in a way. For me, the journey has been about self exploration. It's not my marketing. I mean, it is, but underneath it, it isn't. It's who you're being. So even though you are coming out of a set of shadow work, I would say integrate and jump right back in. That's going to be
Okay.
your best marketing.
All right. Thank you. That's perfect insight.
Mhm. Well, where would you like to go from here?
I am studying the Akashic Records and I'm finishing my program. I've got some practice readings to do, which I'm looking forward to before I get my certification. And I'm interested in the best way to integrate the Akashic reading modality into my tarot sessions so I can best help my clients.
Mm. So you and I were talking a little bit about this before. And when you say that, are we specifically talking about the Akashic Soul Records where you're accessing their soul history? Or are you more referring to just Akashic information channeling into you for the moment?
That's a really interesting question. When I open my own and other people's records, it appears to me like a library where I walk in and speak with their team to get information. And then there is a point during the reading where if it's not being recorded, I'm not going to remember exactly what I've given them, what insights I've shared. So I feel like there may be aspects of both, but you can probably clarify that a bit more than I can.
And when you say you don't remember, meaning like you're channeling and then you don't remember what you've said after?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. So there's a couple different things happening. And so, how I'm understanding your version of reading the Akashic Records is even though you're going into the library, you're going to the section of the library that's related to their current day life and the information and possibility state that is existing around them then at the time of the reading.
Yes, that's exactly right. That is where I am.
Okay. So it sounds like you're already incorporating it when you say that you go in to the records, or are you keeping them separate right now?
They have been separate. I have done an Akashic Records reading with one tarot client, and it went very well. It integrated nicely. But it was just the once, and it was my first time opening someone's records. So I think my messages were maybe a little bit choppier than they will be in the future, the same as accessing my own records. Less detailed information in the beginning, and then it begins to flow the more I practice.
I guess maybe can you clarify your question for me so that I can see what they're saying? Because from what you're saying, it's like you're already doing it and it's just practice.
Mhm.
But I want to make sure that I'm connecting in with your question the way that you're intending it.
Yes, thank you. I believe my question is whether it makes sense to open my clients' Akashic records before I begin any of the work, as long as I have their permission, of course. Or does it make sense to give the tarot reading and then open their records if I feel led? I understand it could be different for different clients.
Hmm. Well, they're saying like you already know, like you're already doing it. Like both of those are options. In this work, right? There isn't one way of doing it. There's the way that works for you and for your
Mhm.
client.
Mhm.
And
That's good.
so, yeah, the information is like be organic with it. If you feel called, like it's building that relationship with your guides. Cause what will happen is your guides, if you're doing a reading and they know that that's available for your client, they're going to like tap you on the shoulder and be like, all right, open the records. So you're going to know like building that relationship with your spirit team is going to give you the wisdom to know if you need to or not.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. In the other modalities that I use, and when I teach other people to read tarot, for example, I definitely emphasize, here is how I do it. This is a model that you might find useful, but definitely use your own way of approaching it, because how you come to it is going to be easier and clearer for you than if that's different than how I approach it. So yes, your guidance makes perfect sense, including in context of who I am and how I practice the other modalities I'm more familiar with. So I think my question was probably arising from a bit of nervousness around having something new and where and how to use this tool. But what you've said makes perfect sense, to use my intuition as to when it comes in.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing, right? That this example just shows us is that you already know. You hold so much wisdom inside you. And when we reach outside of us, we're looking for someone that can just reflect that to us, right? Because it's already there in you. And then when the words come through, you're like, oh, yeah, I knew. And I love that because this also builds, right, our own confidence in our abilities. And with that said, after you've done this for a while, again, right, I love that you use the word model because it is so true, right? It's just different models that help us access something that is wildly unexplainable. And so through a model, we have an ability to step down the universe to a way that our humanness can understand it and then share the greatness in it. And what could possibly happen, because I have seen this in my life, is that you start with a model, but then the information starts to flow into that model without you needing to create the structure every time, because it just starts to flow in the shape of what you've created. So if you have this specific process of opening the records, you might not need to do that forever. As you get more connected, as you explore more, as you are with more clients, that starts to just be part of your intuitive infrastructure.
I'm nodding as you're talking. That makes perfect sense, that as I'm beginning my journey with reading other people's Akashic records, I'm using someone else's model, my instructor's model. And right now, that's how it works for me. But yeah, again, it makes perfect sense that over time, I may not need that specific opening method to get into that guidance.
Because also your intuitive flavor, your gifts, the way that you're intended to do this work in the world is going to solidify in you. It's going to gain more strength. You're going to rely on yourself more as opposed to other people's models, right? You might even create your own model inside there. Like, this is what works for you. This is how your spirit family talks to you and helps you help others.
Yes, yes, that definitely makes sense. My tarot readings have changed quite a bit from my student days to now. Now I'm comfortable integrating other modalities like light language, visualizations to help clients into the right space and provide the integration that they need, especially near the end of the session with light language. Yeah, that's definitely evolved. So I can see how my Akashic Records readings would do the same.
And as you were talking about that, I felt you expanding. Like, yes, this is your truth, right? There was like an understanding that was happening inside you of your process, right? In a way of like, this is just me walking through a process that then I make my own. And that I feel that in your field already by what you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have energy tingles around it.
When you say that, what do you mean?
I feel a sense of almost like a very gentle static electricity across the surface of my skin. I experience increased energy in different ways, and that's one of the ways it presents.
Got it. Okay. When I say tangle, there's something that I need to go and untangle.
Oh.
So
Well,
I was like,
Sarah, that is
okay.
my Southern accent. I am from South Carolina, and I said tingle.
Tingle. I love it. I guess I just needed to hear your explanation of what it actually looked like.
Well, I understand needing an explanation.
Mhm. Oh, well, thank you. Is there anything else in closing that I can support you with?
I don't believe so. You've given me so much good guidance. I really appreciate your help today.
You're welcome. Thank you.